Just ahead on American Black Journal, the Rainbow Push Coalition assesses the role of minorities in the auto industry. Reverend Jesse Jackson is here to talk about the findings. Plus, there's a new effort underway to get girls interested in STEM careers. We'll have the details. American Black Journal starts right now.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. The Rainbow Push Coalition just wrapped up its annual Global Automotive Summit right here in Detroit. The event brings together hundreds of auto executives, suppliers, manufacturers, dealers, and others to discuss ways to create more opportunities for minorities in the automotive industry. Joining me now is the president and founder of Rainbow Push, Reverend Jesse Jackson. Welcome to American Black Journal.
To you again, sir.
Yes. This is a wonderful program. The question I have, though, first is, the automotive industry has been around for more than 100 years. You would think that by now we would not really be talking about opportunities for minorities.
A history of racial discrimination. We worked for a long time on the assembly line. It was real hard and dirty work. We over-index as consumers when it comes to the business of the matter. We got our first car dealership in 1966, so over 50 years ago. And yet there's nothing in the industry that we cannot do. The focus right now is in additional jobs as auto dealerships and suppliers. And then there is legal and administrative and advertising and marketing, a whole range of stuff.
Yeah.
And so we are really indexing far beneath our capacity in the industry. And so what we did, Mercedes-Benz, for example, Mercedes-Benz 360 dealerships, 6 African American. We indexed around 25%.
Yeah.
VW, you know, about the same. So it's global because we've had to take delegations led by Mr. John Graves and others to Japan to meet with Honda, Nissan, and Toyota. We have to go to Germany to meet with VW and Mercedes-Benz and like what is happening with VW because the violation of the law by VW is a big deal to everybody.
Sure. It's
not just emissions of soil, of dirt, but it's also omissions of equal opportunity.
Right.
So we're really not looking for the diverse. We're looking for fair trade. We're looking for two-way. We trade with you, trade with us.
You trade with us.
We want our share of dealerships and franchises and suppliers.
Do you find that there's a difference between the way the Detroit 3 automakers deal with this and the foreign? You have a bigger challenge with the foreign automakers?
Well, they're coming up fast now. Toyota has specifically, but General Motors is taking the lead in so many areas. When Leon Sullivan was put on the board some years ago, they led the drive for affirmative action. GM led the drive to get us out of South Africa still on conditions that made sense. And so there's a sensitivity to GM, Ford, and Chrysler. Chrysler is no longer American-owned, but there's a legacy of history there. And it comes in part out of UAW as well, out of worker sensitivity. But we must not, because these companies are not producing so much, but they're going south. They're not coming back to Detroit. They're going, VW is in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Toyota's in Plano, Texas, and in Mississippi. VW is going to South Carolina. They're going to basic right to work law states. And so as they come under those conditions, we have to reassess how we relate to the growing industry. Because once the civil rights barriers came down and bridges were built, then these industries began to go south. And with that comes a whole new economic agenda.
It's different. It's different. It's still different for African Americans. Opportunity is still different in those states.
Particularly beyond the working on the basic assembly line, and those are good jobs, by the way. But beyond that, we have the right to be dealers, and in proportion to our investment, dealers and franchises, and when then even the high tech has become such a big deal. You can't drive these cars now without not having a great sense of technology, and we spent a lot of time this year tying in Silicon Valley. The automotive industry.
Yeah.
And that's the most insensitive industry going. You would think, since it's so relative,
Silicon Valley.
Since it's so relatively new, it would be much better, but it's not. 189 board members, 36 white women board members, 3 blacks and 1 Latino. In the C-suites, 360, 3 blacks, 1 Latino.
Wow.
Board members, Apple has 0, Facebook 0. That's changing now because HP now put on 4 black board members last week, and Apple now has put on Jim Bell on their board. So we're fighting to get board positions in C-suites, but also to get STEM education to our children, to get for young boys and young girls. We have a tech center at Rainbow Push in Chicago. We want 1,000 churches. To literally we use some of that empty, unused Sunday school space. We can teach children the apps, codes, and financial literacy and marketing.
And that's where it starts. I mean, they have got to be up on those things just to compete for any job.
Which they can do because we don't have a talent deficit.
Right.
It's an opportunity deficit. There's nothing we cannot do. I think every time I think about the automotive industry, the most sensitive job in the whole industry, the designer, the chief designer in the world is Ed Wilburn.
Mm-hmm. Right. In
the whole world. Every GM, he sits at a desk every day and looks at 6 continents, and he has to pass on every design. He grew up in the South, went to Howard University, learned his art, his form, but we don't see that face of the auto industry. Women are running manufacturing plants, and we're trying to get them to expose what we can do, because if we can be president of the United States, we can be president of an auto company.
Right. The contraction in the auto industry has got to also have set us back in terms of this, and not just in terms
but
those
who had legacy kept the inside track. Effort and excellence means a lot, but access and inheritance means more.
Yeah.
This is why we're struggling to keep on to our one shop, which is almost cost ineffective now. Some of them kept their multiple dealerships. So we had maybe 700 to 900 dealerships 10 years ago. Now selling around the 246.
Yeah.
So it's a radical drop in dealerships, not in purchasing, but in dealerships
but
and
in
suppliers.
ownership. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. You've had these summits several times. Talk about some of the things that you've learned from having people just sit and talk about this. What are the people's reactions? What's the movement that we're seeing?
Well, it's the infrastructure. When you have people like Vivian Picard and Jim Farmer at General Motors. Mm-hmm. Their sensitivity is they have direct access to Mary Barra.
Right.
That's a big deal. They're not just fronting; they're really representing. We've learned that having access matters to the highest levels.
Yeah.
Because when you leave out blacks and browns, you're leaving out what? Market, money, talent, location, and growth. So you're not just doing us a favor. When your inclusion leads to growth, when there's growth, everybody wins.
Everybody makes more money, sure.
So we're over-indexing, but it's like a one-eye quarterback. You just can't see the field. You can't see the opportunities unless, and it seems ironically, some of the foreign companies have come in, they've seen the market more clearly than the historical companies. They've seen us through the lens of historical race.
Sure.
And they cannot see the marketplace. So a company like Toyota is coming to shop to #1.
Right.
They don't have the same historical barriers that these companies have.
Yeah.
I think, make your point.
Yeah, go ahead. So one of the things that's really interesting to me about this work is when I think about you and I think of footage that I see of you from the 60s and the things that you were doing in the 60s and 70s, fighting for legal equality and progress in this nation. That's really different from the kind of work that you have to do now, which is about opening up economic doors.
We're free but not equal. This is another stage of our struggle. If the first stage was to end legal slavery, that's a 246-year journey. And the next stage to end Jim Crow and lynchings. The third stage, the right to vote. Beyond that, the access to capital and industry and technology and deal flow. And that's a very different dimension. And so we have these skills to sell cars, to manufacture cars, to sell supplies. But these have been very difficult barriers to break through. We're doing it, but it's very difficult.
Do you feel like this is harder than what you were facing in the 60s?
Yeah, because freedom allies are against humiliation, which is embarrassing to everybody, but they're not necessarily for equality.
Right, right.
And that means you can have the best idea, but access to capital. Nobody like the late brother Mel Farr, who had just flowing with ideas, but couldn't get the capital to match the ideas. And sometimes when you have all the right skills, without capital, you're trying to swim in a pool without water.
Yeah, yeah. I've got you here. I would be remiss if I did not ask you to weigh in on politics a little bit. The 2016 presidential contest is pretty well underway. The field looks very different than what we saw 8 years ago.
Yeah, but it's been a silly season.
Yeah, it really is.
A silly and foolish diversion. For example, we've been doing a lot of work in South Carolina, which is now on the floodwaters, but it's a state 30% African American. The state budget have less than 1% of the contract.
Yeah.
Here's a state with 1 million poor people, 1 million slightly more white than black. A state turns back $12 billion in Medicaid money.
Right.
A $7 billion budget turned back $12 billion. Alabama has a $9 billion state budget, turns back $14 billion in Medicaid. Which means the poorest people, white and black, could have basic health care. The new industry moving south, and yet they're bringing with them the old habits of exclusion. So the struggle, the industry shifts south, and much of our struggle will be shifting south as well.
Yeah. Well, when you look at the candidates, though, for 2016, who do you see that?
The reason I raised the substance as opposed to just the persons is that when the dust clears, what is Trump
you want them to be
saying?
Yeah.
Or the suggestion that 11 million refugees, which I might add are not just Mexicans, they're Haitians, they're Africans, they're Europeans, they're students. The uprooted 11 million families would be the largest deportation in the history of the world.
Yes.
That's not a good idea. The idea that no Muslim can be an American president.
Right. Where does this come from?
Unconstitutional and immoral. It's not a good idea. I think both Hillary and Bernie Sanders, they focus on bank behavior. We bailed out the banks.
We did.
But not linked to lending, not to reinvestment. So you have 100,000 vacant homes, abandoned lots in Detroit because of subprime and predatory lending. Not the people's fault. I mean, the banks in the field, they made money off of the subprime lending. They made money off of the bailout. And they're making money off of the money they made.
Right.
and the people who were locked out were driven from middle class into poverty because they couldn't pay their house notes. Yeah. And so we are making certain that we want to make sure that these candidates focus on investment, affordable health care, affordable education, student loan debt, grading credit card debt, and corporate justice.
Right.
As well as end the jail industrial complex for profit.
Yeah. Do you feel like there is less tolerance for that message today than when you were pushing it in the 1960s?
Well, the tolerance must be made possible by those who have the greatest need. I mean, you must leverage with your vote. You can't just say, well, I'm with X or Y personality. What is the agenda?
What are they going to do?
If you have these millions of people in poverty, there must be a poverty because it's going to cost more than people to lock people down than to unleash their talents and their abilities. Unleash these talents. And if black and white people can find common ground, to move from surviving apart, learn to live together.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about the great athletic teams, when Michigan State plays Michigan on the big game, what makes it so different is green and white versus blue and gold. And what makes it different is that there's not a sociological analysis. There's a metric that says even the playing field. Whenever the playing field is even, and the rules are public, and the goals are clear, the referees are fair, and the score is transparent, we can all win and we can all accept the outcome. And in some real sense, that is where we are today.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and that's a great message to take into the Auto Summit too, or to draw from.
Yeah, and with all the violence, you know, the president went out to Oregon where 9 people unfortunately were killed, and 9 were killed in Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah. But 60 were killed last month in Chicago.
Right, right.
357 killed in Chicago.
Unbelievably violent
since January of this year. We've lost almost 4,000 to gun deaths in Chicago in the last 7 years. 4,000. Yeah. Bigger than Iraq.
Right.
And yet somehow it seemed like Sandy Hook and Oregon and Charleston
get the attention
Yeah. We've done the terrible. We've adjusted to the killings in Chicago and in urban America. We must never adjust to tyranny.
Can't accept it. Yeah.
Unacceptable.
All right, Reverend Jesse Jackson, thank you for being here.
And thank you.
Yes. Coming up, a new effort to engage girls and young women in science, technology, engineering, and math careers. That's next, right after this look at some important moments in Detroit's Black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1972, Lady Sings the Blues, starring Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams, debuted in American movie theaters. In 2002, radio personality Ed Love was recognized by the Southeast Michigan Jazz Association for outstanding contribution to jazz. And in 1966, Dave Bing debuted for the Detroit Pistons. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black history, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
The Michigan Science Center is launching a new project aimed at getting more girls and young women interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. These subjects are referred to as STEM, and the Science Center is hoping to encourage the next generation of STEMinistas. The program focuses on increasing interest, confidence, and skill sets in STEM. It's for girls in 4th through 8th grade and will begin in January. Joining me now to talk about the project is the president and CEO of the Michigan Science Center, Dr. Tonya Matthews. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, so I've got a daughter
Yes.
who is right in that age group that you are targeting. She showed me the other day a video that she had produced coding, a little thing where she had a little animated cat dancing around on different sets and asking questions, and depending on what you gave the answer, something different happened on the screen. I was blown away.
Okay.
But this is exactly the sort of sweet spot that you guys are aiming at. This is what you want. You want little girls to start thinking that way. Because it can lead to a great career.
Absolutely. I think the key to all of this is remembering that girls are actually good at this.
Yeah.
I mean, these are still the grades where the girls are tops of their class in math and science.
Better than the boys,
better,
in fact.
yes,
right?
yes, better.
And that switches at some point, and we don't really know all the reasons why. We can talk about some of them.
We don't know all the reasons why. It is definitely, in general, between sort of 6th and 8th grade, is everyone's beginning to lose interest, and the girls are losing interest faster. That can be everything from implicit bias to boring textbooks to lack of role models to lack of exposure. All of these different kinds of things are playing, but it's definitely affecting young ladies more. And as you continue up the pipeline, the numbers get smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to what some may refer to as an innovation gap, right, in the workforce, where you just don't have enough young ladies continuing on that path. Even when young ladies are graduating with these STEM degrees, right, they're graduating with sometimes as much as 40%, depending on the subject, and it's something less than 20% who are continuing the careers.
And so your program is aimed at trying to get them to think longer term about these questions. What are some of the things that you're going to do?
Yeah, so thinking longer term and answering the question why. Young ladies always want to know why. What can I do with this? I already have plans to save the world. I can tell you about my plans to save the world. Does this fit? It's why we see more young women in things like the biosciences and environmental sciences. So really talking about STEM and creating activities like that. So we recently tested an overnight girls hackathon.
Okay,
right?
there you go.
They loved it, right? But part of that was they were designing apps or games to do their own thing.
Right.
This is what I want an app to do. Of course, we've got the coding classes. We will have Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex at the Science Center. So hey, it's a dinosaur. It's named after a girl. It was discovered by a girl. So really getting into that why, letting them get their hands on things dirty in a technical kind of sense, really just sort of hits that inspiration.
Well, and it's seeing themselves in what they're supposed to be sort of learning or thinking about. And that's difficult still because, as you point out, there aren't as many role models as there should be. There aren't a lot of, people still hold back, I feel like, from pushing girls in that direction.
Yeah, you make a good point in terms of they're not necessarily a lot of role models, or at least are visible. So one of the major components of the program is a role model and mentor database. We are actively collecting grown-up STEMinistas, who, by the way, love the name as much as the 12-year-old girls do. And we're collecting them in a database, but not just their name and what they do, but their story, why they do, how they got there, with the goal being that we've got this giant database of all these women doing these different kinds of things, and young ladies can find themselves, and we'll have lots of examples of the different kinds of things that they can do.
Yeah. you talk about the Michigan Science Center. It's now the Michigan Science Center, but it's still located in Detroit.
Absolutely.
And this gap in communities like Detroit, in minority communities, is bigger, right?
It is bigger.
It's a bigger challenge.
It is bigger, and one of the interesting things, though, is looking at different communities. Think about what matters, what's important to them. One of the things that pushed me on this side, I am actually a STEMinista, so my degree is in engineering.
A doctor, right? I called you doctor.
Right, and I have some of these same stories, but one of the things that I like about this is that STEM is potentially a poverty game changer, right? And so young ladies in these communities are exceptionally motivated by practicality. Listen, at the end of the day, I'd like to save the world, but I also need a job because I may have to save my family.
Right. This is a career. That's going to pay me
It's a career choice that has, as we've been talking about, multiple entry points. It's got entry points after high school. It's got entry points after 2-year degrees. It's got entry points after vocational, or if you want to do like me and stick your daddy for the 10-year bill. It's got all these different sort of entry points, and I think that it gives kind of a practical appeal. And frankly, I think our young ladies who are growing up in certain environments probably have better problem-solving skills and some really interesting, creative approaches to getting things done, which are really beneficial in STEM.
So tell me about your story. As I said, you're a doctor. You are very, very well educated in STEM, in the STEM area. What was it that said to you, this is for me, and not just something I'm interested in, but something I can do and achieve at?
Right. So, you know, I'm kind of practicing what I preach. I was really good at math and science, but could have cared less. Was not interested in engineering or computers or any of that. And then I got into one of these programs that was literally designed to change young ladies' attitudes about science. I got in there a little bit later, but mostly I went into the program because it was competitive, and I like to compete, and I thought I could, you know, get a nice certificate so I could go to college and do something else that girls do. But the program worked. And I saw that I could actually do things with it, and that's how I picked biomedical engineering.
That really is, and that really is key. That one experience, that one opportunity. My daughter, just 4 weeks ago, I asked her, I said, you play these video games, do you want to know how they work? And she said, no. But someone in school, one of the teachers in school, showed her how to do this, and now, you know, she's getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do it before school because she's so excited by it. It really is just about lighting that interest in the right way.
It's about lighting it in the right way, and then also, can I say, we just keep it a little bit real, right? That fire has got to burn bright enough to get you through the darkness of whatever. You're still going to run into some bias. You're still going to run into, I'm the only girl in the class. But if it means that much to you, you're going to power through.
How common was that for you, that you found yourself alone in terms of your gender, in terms of your race, as you were doing this?
Very common. So I did my undergraduate work at Duke University, and then my graduate work at Johns Hopkins. So yes, very often.
Two very elite institutions, not very diverse.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, for my graduate work, I was almost a triple minority because I was American. Right?
There's a lot of foreign
students. On
students.
The engineering side. And that said, I want to be clear, though, that means that my mentors were men who did a very good job, right? And so they believed in me, and they encouraged me. And I did get some discouragement and discouraging words from different places, but I think as long as we have a balance sort of those things, and so that's why the program, of course, means a lot to me personally, but I'm a scientist, so I also have data that suggests that this will work really well. Yes.
All right, so it starts in January. How can parents get their kids involved?
Absolutely. So we're definitely starting it early 2016, and there's going to be a website, and it will go live. So we're going to have ways to come, different programs, more overnights, more coding classes, more robot building classes. You can sign up at any time. We'll be showing folks the logo. It's a fantastic logo. It's almost as cool as the name. But we're also working with different groups in the city, like the Girl Scouts and DAPSEP, and all of these different organizations that already work with girls or already work with STEM. So we really want to try to be a hub, a way that folks who are interested in supporting girls in this work can have a partner in that. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and the schools, of course, are probably a big part of that. I know you guys bring lots of school kids into the Science Center. Anyway.
We do. And one of the things we're going to be measuring, our research partner is Wayne State. We're going to be measuring when we set up this girl-friendly, girl invitation kind of environment. Do our young ladies also go into the co-ed programs more often, right? Because now they're just drinking the Kool-Aid and they want to be a part of that. And so schools are great for that, right? And so we do have a lot of schools coming in from all over Southeast Michigan, and so they're going to be a part of the program as well.
Okay. Great program.
Thank
and
you.
Thanks very much for sharing it with us.
Thanks for having me.
One final note, American Black Journal and the Detroit Public Television want to send our condolences to the family and friends of Grace Lee Boggs. The longtime Detroit activist passed away last week at the age of 100. Mrs. Boggs was a leader in labor, civil rights, black power, women's rights, and the environmental justice movements. Her many contributions were highlighted in a 2013 PBS documentary titled American Revolutionary: The Evolution of Grace Lee Boggs. It can be viewed online at pbs.org/POV. That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org, and you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. Plus, you can hear our program on 1019 WDET FM. We'll see you next time.
This program is part of American Graduate. Let's make it happen. A public media initiative made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.